What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. The Game Pass price hike situation continues online. Yes, with all of the backlash, but now a few other things, which includes even a response from Microsoft with the whole thing. We're going to go over all of that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Sony. It looks like discontinuing support for the PlayStation 4 internally. That does make sense because we're kind of thinking another system might be coming here pretty soon from them. And we'll also be talking about some of the sales that are happening in Japan with the Famitsu sales chart showing us where Silent Hill F came in, as well as how things have been going for the Switch 2. All of that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. Guys, we're here every weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, keeping you up to date with the gaming world. And we're going to start today with, what we expect to be a Halo 1 remake, maybe getting announced later this month, as we have some details even around the support studio or the co-developer with this game, as Halo Studios seems like their big thing now is to also work alongside a bunch of other studios. And this is posted by Rebs Gaming, and they went over some sources that they have pointing towards actually a Virtuos studio based in the Netherlands, Abstraction. All right, and apparently they are making the Halo Combat Evolved remake similar to how Oblivion was remade. So you have kind of an underlying engine, they have Unreal Engine sort of on top of it for the visuals. Now look, Virtuos isn't new to Halo. They have worked on a couple of other titles in the past, and Xbox Era did come in and corroborate this. So really, to me, all eyes now are on the Halo World Championships happening here in a few weeks in October, where I would assume they're going to be going over this game after the announcement, maybe even sort of a deep dive, because the expectation then is it could be launching next year for the, I mean, it would all line up, since the Xbox anniversary for the entire brand is also the Halo anniversary. And that's the 25th anniversary next year. So to me, it all lines up for Microsoft to have a big year. And yes, hopefully launch a remake of the first Halo. We'll see with the campaign, but also multiplayer, that's the part I'm unclear on right now. Also, we had another update for Star Wars Outlaws on the Switch 2, and we'll take a look. This is over on their official page, where they say, our second patch on Switch 2 has just been deployed. This title update includes improvements to general stability, fixes, and visual quality. You can find the complete list of changes below. So the word right now, as people who have downloaded the patch, I haven't had a chance to fire this up and check it out for myself, is that just the visuals have gotten even better. Specifically, the lighting is getting pointed out again, and we know this game is based heavily around ray tracing for the visuals. It seems like Ubisoft is just continuing to put in work on the Snowdrop engine for the Switch 2, and that's sort of what I'm looking at here, because I feel like people who have picked up the game or heard about the game are already pretty happy with how it looks and how it runs for the most part. And look, they're going back and doing improvements because I feel like it sold maybe even better than they were expecting on the Switch 2 at launch, and they have the holiday period coming up, so why not keep the word of mouth going there? But it also makes me wonder just about the development of Snowdrop on the Switch 2, and if this is just sort of a way for them to continue improving it, maybe for some other games coming over with that engine. But hey, if you have Star Wars Outlaws, you've been playing on the Switch 2, may as well go ahead, fire it up, get this update installed, and see what you think about the improved visuals. Oh, and here's a fun thing that was posted up, this over on X. This is from Natalie the Nerd, saying, the Lego Game Boy with a working Game Boy inside. So it's not an emulator. There's an entire blog post that she actually dropped right below this that goes over some of the PCBs and other things that she had to put together to make this work. I think it's just fun. It's like, yeah, it's a Lego Game Boy. It's not meant to play actual Game Boy cartridges, but of course the internet is undefeated, and here we are now with a fully working Lego Game Boy. And look, she even popped in Pokemon. I mean, you have to pop in Pokemon Red at that point, and Tetris. So really cool stuff. I'll have that link down below along with the blog post that goes over exactly how she put it together. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the Xbox Game Pass situation that just continues to roll along online as people are posting cancellations and just overall frustration of the price increase that Microsoft issued like the other day for 50% with Game Pass Ultimate. That's quite the jump. Apparently in some regions it's more. I saw some mentioning in Brazil it's double. So let me know if you're in any of these other regions where it jumped even higher, and let us know down in the comments exactly how much it increased for you. But there was one other tier that I wanted to point out because it was kind of glossed over by Microsoft, as they really wanted to go over 3 specific tiers. They did leave out PC Game Pass, and I saw some people in the comments asking about this. Hey, what about about the other PC Game Pass? What happened there? Well, this makes it a bit easier, this card. This is over on X from Derek Strickland, who shows the PC Game Pass all the way to the right. It is now $16.49 per month. I believe before it was $12 a month. So there you go. It jumped, what's that, like almost 40%, 30, between 35 and 40%. You can do the exact math. But yes, that also saw a price increase. That does include the new games on day one, including new Xbox published games and third-party games. Now, they don't seem to have the big Fortnite thing in there, so that's a bummer. But here, though, at least it's cheaper than Ultimate. Just keep in mind, Microsoft knows they can't charge you for online play with PC, so I'm sure that also kind of puts a damper on the idea of just additional value for Game Pass Ultimate going to PC. But the frustrations continued. As I mentioned, people were looking at a full screen ad that popped up when you booted up your Xbox, and Microsoft has been doing this for a while. I've seen this for a number of games that they launched, but Tom Warren shared it over on social media, get even more with Ultimate. And, I looked at this and I was like, okay, yeah, it's an ad. But then I also thought, well, it says view my plan at the bottom. I do wonder if this was more or less a notification for people. Like, hey, your plan changed and it went up in price. So that's the thing. Not everyone is as plugged in online viewing this stuff as you may be. So this legitimately could have been they may have learned about this whole situation with this ad that popped up. So I get the idea of, oh man, they're trying to show everyone, but they're also, yes, they're kind of trying to show everyone to let them know. This might be an obligation. Like, they have to do this just to remind people and show them that the price increased. But it doesn't necessarily have to increase, because get this, many retailers, as pointed out by IGN, are just offering $20 cards for Game Pass. Now, it seems right now, Amazon, Walmart, Best Buy, Target, and GameStop went crazy. So GameStop found a good marketing niche, and that's basically a Game Pass, but not like, hey, Game Pass is all awesome. No, we have games that you can buy and own, and then also we'll undercut Microsoft at the store as they have them for sale for $20. I've also seen the 3-month cards going around for $60, and I assume the way this is working right now is they have a stock of these cards, and they're just going to keep them at that price point. I mean, if you go into any of these places, you see like the gondolas or just the walls that have all the different cards just sitting there. I assume they have tons more, and they just say, hey, for now, this is a way to get people to visit our website or come into our stores. This is just foot traffic, so why not leave them at that price point? So there you go. You can pick up a bunch of cards if you want to stay with Game Pass Ultimate, maybe for the foreseeable future with some of the releases coming up, but keep it at $20 per month. And as I mentioned, Microsoft did respond to this whole thing. We also had another unfortunate quote with the timing. This is coming out of Tokyo Game Show, and this is what I mean about there being many different people driving the bus at Microsoft and Xbox, because Sarah Bond was doing an interview, and you could see this quote. Now, this is over on Tweaktown, and you can see they say, when asked by GameWatch, that being Sarah Bond, if Xbox was a viable business, she answered, last fiscal year, Xbox Game Pass sales reached a record high of $5 billion. It's a profitable business, and as more creators join Xbox Game Pass, payments to creators increase, so we think it's a good business for creators. And then, like a couple days later, they raised the Game Pass Ultimate 50%, despite it apparently being profitable. Now, I will say, when these price increases happening, they're not thinking about the here and now, they're thinking about the next year or the year after that, because the line has to keep going up. Like, this is what we've said multiple times with publicly traded companies that have reports every quarter. The line has to keep going up, or there's going to be problems, like across the board. So with this jump, it's most likely about, how are things going to go next year? Well, let's increase the price and we'll deal with it then. So with that in mind, Microsoft did respond, as they kind of have to. So they got someone who is, well, trained for it, and we can see this. This is over on The Verge. And this is from Dustin Blackwell, who's the Director of Gaming and Platform Communications at Microsoft, saying, we understand price increases are never fun for anybody, but we're trying to reinforce by adding more value to these plans as well. It's something we don't take lightly, and we're listening to the feedback of players in the community to try to provide them with more of what they're asking for. Okay, so I need to know, anyone out there who had Game Pass Ultimate at $20, were you like, this is great, it could be so much better if they took that Fortnite subscription, that's $12, rolled it in, and gave me a $2 discount at $30. That would be it. That I'd be really happy. I don't know a lot of people who are saying that. And, I've thought about this more and more with the Game Pass and the Fortnite subscription. I know Ubisoft Classics are in there, but it's not new Ubisoft games, it's older ones. I don't even know what kind of benefit that is for most people out there. It just feels like more of a, hey, we're just going to get a bunch of games, pile them in for just the number's sake. Now, here, though, if you play a lot of Fortnite to the point where you would want a subscription like that, I assume you don't have a lot of time playing casually to then go, oh, wow, 400 plus games. Like, there's so much stuff to do here, because then you're probably just going to go back and play Fortnite. I don't know if that's a great addition or value add as Microsoft is thinking, other than their executives at the top and they go, oh, Fortnite's popular. My kids keep talking about that. Let's see if we can get Epic on the phone and just take their subscription service and throw it in there. And then see what Ubisoft will do with the classics. That'll work, except doesn't seem to be, because people are not happy with the subscription service, Game Pass Ultimate going up to $30, and I really can't blame them with what was added. Next up, let's talk about Amazon Prime Gaming. If you have Amazon Prime right now, these are all games that you can claim during the month of October, and I want to point it out because if you didn't know that, you may as well claim these games because you already paid for them, so why not? So let's take a look. This is over on VGC. I'll have this also linked down below in the sources, and you can check them out for yourself. But we'll start here. Available now, Dragon Strike and Tormented Souls. Now, you're going to see GOG or Amazon Games app next to each one of these. So keep that in mind with GOG. It is DRM free. You just download it and you have the game. And then moving to October 9th, we have XCOM 2 and Vampire the Masquerade Reckoning of New York. October 16th, Empty Shell, Fallout New Vegas Ultimate Edition, and True Fear Forsaken Souls Part 1. October 23rd, we have Hellslave, True Fear, Forsaken Souls Part 2, Lost and Found Agency Collector's Edition, Fallout 3 Game of the Year Edition, and then October 30th, You Will Die Here Tonight, Werewolf the Apocalypse Heart of the Forest, and Halloween Stories Horror Movie Collector's Edition. Keep in mind, these would all be for PC. All right, but there are like a rotating number of games that happen every single month, and many people don't even know that this thing exists. So I figured I would at least bring this to your guys' attention. If you have Amazon Prime and you have, some of these games are going to run on like almost a potato for PCs. So if anything, might be worth to at least throw them onto your account because these are just their keys they're giving away. It's GOG, it's DRM free. You might as well claim them. Next up, let's talk about Sony finally moving away from the PlayStation 4 internally. And it kind of makes sense considering we're expecting the PS6 in 2027 now. But this kind of leans into that more since seems like Sony's moving away in 2026. Now, we can see this. This is over on Insider Gaming, saying documentation sent to Insider Gaming says that PlayStation is to start sunsetting legacy PSN features for the PlayStation 4 in spring 2026 for new title submission. So, new games submitted for the PlayStation 4, of course. It stated that this means that any new PS4 titles submitted after this date will no longer be able to integrate with the following legacy features. They list Activity Feed Web API, Title Small Storage, Title User Storage, Users and Profiles, Word Filters, Shared Media Web API. Now, according to the documentation from PlayStation, these services are designed to provide a more unified and scalable foundation across console generations. People were going back and forth as to what some of these bullet points actually mean or what they do within PlayStation. To be honest, it doesn't matter that much other than the fact that, Sony is starting to sunset some of these major features for the PS4, finally, which I think is, at this point, you eventually have to move on, especially if you are going to work to introduce a PlayStation 6. Let's see, if it's coming out, we'll say holiday 2027 is the current theory that's going around. If that's the case, they're going to start talking about it either at the end of 2026 or the beginning of 2027 if they start sunsetting PS4 features like midway through 2026 even. You're going to have like a 7-month buffer before you start talking about the PS6, and that's kind of cutting it close. But if we also believe they're going to have a handheld and then maybe a console that's going to use that handheld chip, how many systems are developers going to want to support by then? And yeah, if you're Sony, eventually you just kind of start moving things along yourself. So it seems like the PS4 is finally on its way out to becoming legacy internally at PlayStation with some of the developers, and it's had a great run. 2013 to 2026, probably even beyond, because I'm sure some developers will still look to put their games on the PS4. Maybe not some of the larger AAA games, but certainly some smaller titles that will just work there anyway, just based on how demanding that game is. But the PS4, 13 plus years, it's a pretty good run. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about those Famitsu sales charts. This would have covered last week in Japan. We can see this over on Stall-based forums. And we can see at the top, Silent Hill F, 57,475. That's actually pretty good. Okay, so the Silent Hill 2, I think that was right around 30,000. So this coming in almost double then, 57,475 on the PS5. That's pretty good. Silent Hill, I'm telling you guys, seems to be on an upward trajectory right now, and something tells me we're gonna see another Silent Hill game maybe next year even. We already heard about Silent Hill 1. Konami's like all aboard the Silent Hill train right now. I like it. Seems like the sales are reflecting a market that's becoming much more receptive to Silent Hill. Then we have Mario Kart World right below that at 35,027 copies. EA Sports FC 26, 11,327. Then we have Atelier, 10,425. 9 Rips sequel, 10,037. Atelier again, that one on the PS5 at 9,802. Donkey Kong Bonanza, EA Sports FC 26. And then Sonic Racing Crossworlds. That was a little surprising to see it at 5,571. And then Minecraft. So I don't even see Sonic Racing Crossworlds on the PS5. Seems like Sonic Racing, from what I've noticed, has done better outside of Japan. And this is clearly reflecting that here. So that one caught me off guard a bit. Also, it's launching next to what seems to be a pretty popular PS5 release with Silent Hill F, but not necessarily standing up, that being Sonic Racing to Mario Kart World in Japan, at least for this week anyway. We'll see how it does again out in the West when we get those Circana sales reports. Moving over to the hardware, we have the Nintendo Switch 2 at the top, 44,150. It's now crossed 2.1 million units lifetime in Japan, and it hasn't had its first holiday yet, so it just seems whatever Nintendo can ship out there is what sells, and I would expect that to continue throughout the holiday. And keep in mind, Pokemon Legends ZA is a couple weeks out now. That's gonna do some numbers there in Japan. Then we have the Switch 1, 23,110. Wouldn't be shocked if we see a pretty big number out of the Switch 1 either going into that Pokemon Legends ZA release, if there's not many Switch 2s available then. Then we have the PS5, 16,911. Big jump. Seems like it's Silent Hill F related there. And then we have the Xbox Series, 441. And somebody found 21 PS4s in the back to make those sales. So overall, big numbers. You can see that the Switch 1 did cross, this was just the other week, the 36 million unit mark. So it does show you just how much room the Switch 2 has to run in Japan. And when you start seeing these bigger releases, like a Pokemon Legends ZA, like the next generation Pokemon we assume next year, something Zelda related, I'm sure these Mario games that just came out this week, the Galaxy 1 and 2, probably going to do really well there as well. Also, I think this is going to be a situation of the Switch 2 continue to sell out every single week. However many Nintendo can send out there in Japan are what'll sell. But really cool to see Silent Hill. Just building and building on each release. So exciting stuff there for Konami. Is Konami back? Well, apparently they need to pull off a new Metal Gear. That would do it. Or maybe a new Castlevania. They need one other thing, because right now they seem to have Silent Hill figured out. And before we go to the comments of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, did you actually cancel your Game Pass subscription? Well, 21% say yes, 11% say no, 4% say they downgraded to a lower tier, and then 64% say, I didn't have Game Pass. Now, some have wondered, will Microsoft backtrack on this price increase? Well, they say, well, communications person there says that they are listening to the feedback and they're looking around, and they have backtracked before when they tried to double up the Xbox Live membership from 60 to 120. Managed to still do that with Game Pass Core then Essential at 120 per year. But this seems much more integral to their strategy with Game Pass, and they may just try to weather the storm. It's like, hey, if people unsubscribe, whatever, we got Call of Duty coming up, maybe that'll be enough to drive people back to our $30 per month subscription. We'll see. It's just, right now, it feels like Microsoft's in almost no man's land right now. They have a subscription service that looks too expensive right now, and then they also have a console that looks way too expensive right now. So I don't know what Microsoft's doing right now, but hopefully they have something planned for their next generation release, and the word is that's happening in 2026, so we're not that far off. Then we'll finish up with the comments of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Daniel. It says, so many gamers about to jump ship to PlayStation or Switch if they haven't already. Microsoft really isn't doing themselves any favors here. I was thinking, okay, yeah, sure, PlayStation or Switch 2, we'll say, those are on the market, other options. It would have been real interesting right now if Valve had their console out. That's still the rumor and reporting going around, is they're working on it behind the scenes, and they could announce it at any time. So that, if there was some kind of Steam box out there that, not like the old Steam machines, but closer to what we have with the Steam Deck, where it's very focused, certain hardware feels very console-like, or think about the Steam Deck, it's just still the Steam Deck for a few years now, and it seems like Valve is kind of adopting the idea of, we're not going to rush a new kind of handheld with a new chipset and configuration every single year like PC manufacturers may do. We're going to work on pricing, the software closely aligning with the hardware and the OS, and in 5 years after launch, we'll look into doing another one as a legitimate leap in terms of the generation. If that's how they treat a system like a Steam box that comes out and it's fairly capable, if it's around a PS5 right now, that could be kind of enticing for people, especially if Valve has that price point in mind. Think about all the deals on Steam, and then also the openness that Valve has allowed people to have a Steam Deck to load just Windows if you want. A lot of compelling stuff there if they could get that out, especially with the way Microsoft's rolling right now. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card, or maybe you want to check out the latest episode of the Spawncast, where we spent about 2 hours just talking about all the stuff happening in gaming. I'll leave that right below it. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.